We're going to be going on to our next interview. And guys, again, the phone number to call in, it is 8888 Road Dog, toll free all across North America. Drivers, we're going to talk about truck weights. And this is a very interesting topic out there, guys, because when you think about the call for truck weights, it is an age old debate that is rearing its head again. Should truck weight be raised to allow for movement of more freight across traffic lanes in an effort to maximize productivity? Well, the appeal to raise the weights crosses multiple levels, with many shippers, a lot of large trucking companies in favor of these increases, while many safety advocates have stated the dangers, such as an increase in time and distance to stop a heavier truck. And we're going to break this down now point by point. I want to bring on board Fort Worth, Texas attorney Stephen C. Laird, who is with me. And Mr. Laird received his undergraduate degree in business from Texas Tech University back in 1976, a master's of business administration from TCU, and his law degree from South Texas College of Law back in 1980. And, sir, I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us across North America. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us here for a few minutes. Yeah, this is a very interesting debate about what needs to be done as far as raising truck weights in the trucking industry. This has been going on for quite a while out there. You've got some concerns about this, right? Because some in the industry may see this as a way of increasing profitability. Go into your thoughts about this.
Well, I'm looking at it from primarily the perspective of the truck drivers. As we know, it is an industry that already is under a lot of pressure. Professional truck drivers are truly great at their jobs overall. In every profession, there are a few bad apples, so to speak, whether it's in the law profession, the accounting profession, whether we're talking about plumbers, whether we're talking about truck drivers. But I'm looking at this from the perspective more so of the truck driver and the additional challenges and difficulties it's going to create for these truck drivers, in addition to some of the safety considerations of the traveling public. I understand that this is a lobbying effort that has been promulgated primarily by the trucking industry, and they have their reasons for doing it. They have their talking points, as a matter of fact, that they put out in support of these additional weights. But I fear that it's only going to create even more challenges and put more pressure on professional truck drivers handling larger loads. And if we're talking about larger trucks carrying greater weights, supposedly there's going to be fewer trucks on the road, according to one of the talking points of the industry. Well, what is that really going to result in as far as the individual driver is concerned? It's still going to put even more pressure, and now you've got a bigger truck to handle. You've got the forces of the physics involved. It's different than just handling even a maximum 80,000-pound load. We're talking about everything from not only the handling characteristics. We can talk about stopping distances. We can talk about handling itself and braking, but also something that gets overlooked is just the damage to the infrastructure. That is the road damage caused by heavier, weighted, multi-axle trucks bigger than what we presently have on the road. So from a safety standpoint, from a physics standpoint, from a pressure standpoint on the individual truck driver to handle more loads, because there are going to be fewer trucks, even though supposedly they carry more cargo, greater weight. Nevertheless, we know that the result is that there's going to be even more pressure put on these drivers who already have a lot of pressure put on them. We just got through listening. Yes, go ahead.
Counselor, I think most professional drivers out there that I've talked to are dead set against raising the truck weight limits. They understand the physics. They understand that it's going to create a lot of unintended consequences out there. Have you gotten feedback directly from individual drivers about this? What kind of feedback have you gotten, say, on the street level, the local level, so to speak?
Oh, well, the biggest fear is that it is going to put even more time pressure Aside from the handling characteristics and the physics, it's going to put even more time pressure because if you reduce the number of trucks, even if theoretically you're going to increase this weight with a reduced number of trucks, you're going to have even greater time pressures because of the time commitments that individual truck drivers have to meet. I mean, let's face it, we're talking about an industry that gets paid normally by performance. The more miles driven, the greater the pay, the incentive is there, and if there's even more pressure and more incentive, that's going to ultimately result in more edges being shaved, more cuts being made, and more shortcuts being taken. The drivers that I've talked to are very concerned that in addition to the current pressures that they're already under to meet deadlines and distances, it's only going to increase with additional weights.
And from that standpoint, though, wouldn't electronic onboard recorders maybe alleviate some of that? A lot of the trucks are governed at maybe 65 or 68 miles an hour, depending upon the company or the truck, that kind of a thing out there. So are we looking at some additional unintended consequences out there that, some drivers may have to kind of pick up the pace if their truck is not governed, so to speak? Would that fall into the category that you're describing?
Well, absolutely. And the reality is that we all know that there's a certain percentage of drivers that already take some shortcuts, so to speak. They already push the envelope, sometimes even more than is safe or legally allowed, and that's because of the pressure put on them. I mean, overall, we're talking about safe drivers, professionally trained, who take pride in their work. But as I also pointed out, with additional pressures on any group of people, whether they're people working at Walmart or whether they're doctors or lawyers or plumbers or truck drivers, you put additional financial pressure on a particular group, and there are going to be shortcuts that are going to be sought out and envelopes that are going to be pushed, and unsafe practices are going to increase. That's the nature of the beast.
And you mentioned the physics aspect of it as well. I mean, we've got heavier objects that are going to require more distance, more energy to stop, and you mentioned the damage to the infrastructure out there. What are you hearing on, say, the state level as far as members of the legislature on the national front, members of the Congress out there? Are they concerned about this as well?
Yes, but not as much as they need to be, not as much as they should be.
Why is that?
Candidly, the trucking industry is a very powerful lobby, and there are other powerful lobbies. They don't have the only powerful lobby in Washington to get certain laws passed, but the reality is that they have a very forceful group to put a lot of pressure on Congress when they want something done. And here, there's the law of unintended consequences, as I like to call it, where you don't think about something that may result when you're looking at it from only the front end, and damage to the infrastructure already takes place, especially, for example, in the Northeast with the current storm conditions that we're witnessing. Even more severe than what we saw here in Texas about 2 weeks ago with a very severe ice storm.
I remember that,
As a result of that type of weather condition, after these fronts pass and you have clear skies and dry conditions, look at the roads and look at the damage that has been caused not only by larger trucks. Now, passenger vehicles contribute to infrastructure damage too, and I'm not trying to put all of the responsibility or blame on the trucking industry by any means. But the reality is that because of the weights, the greater damage is caused by larger vehicles, and those are normally larger trucks more often than not. And after the type of weather conditions that the Northeast is experiencing right now, and just a couple of weeks ago, people here in the Southwest, including Texas, experienced, you can see what type of damage I'm talking about when we're talking about huge potholes and ruts that have to be repaired. And if they're not repaired, they continue to cause more damage to vehicles, both trucks and passenger vehicles alike, if they're not repaired. So it's a never-ending cycle that we're looking about, and it all results in one word: money. It has to be addressed with money coming from some source. And my concern is that there's not been enough attention to make sure that the additional damage that we're going to be facing because of additional weights that are being pushed is going to be adequately addressed with the proper resources. Already, states are already inadequately funded as far as road repair, and I think truck drivers would be the first ones to admit that.
And take it a step further, Counselor, because in a lot of states, the states will be the one that will issue exemptions to the overweight loads. They will be the ones, the states will be the ones that will issue exemptions to the load permits, allowing for a lot of the trucks to carry that additional weight. In your estimation, should we be really going back after this on the state level and encouraging uniformity in the permitting process? Would that be a good place to start to maybe try to alleviate some of these concerns?
Well, I don't know that it would alleviate them, but it would help address those concerns more than the current proposals are concerned.
Okay.
It is a very good place to start. But once again, what are we ultimately talking about? We're talking about more money that's going to be needed to address the infrastructure damage. And that simply results in one word that nobody really likes to talk about, but the word is taxes. Somebody is going to have to pay along the line somewhere, whether it's higher permit fees by the truckers or the trucking companies or some other taxable form is going to have to be put into place, whether it's on a uniform statewide basis or otherwise, to fix whatever additional damage is caused, because as I indicated, and as everybody already recognizes, regardless of what state you're talking about, as a practical matter, there's not enough funding as it presently is for all the road repairs that are necessary.
All right, I've got a break here for some commercials. Stephen, hold on. Drivers, you got a question for him. It is 8888 Road Dog. All across North America, we're talking about an age-old debate, and that's the idea to increase the truck weights out there on the road. Drivers, where do you think we need to maybe tackle this problem out there? If you drive oversized, what is your thoughts on all of this? Jump in. It's 8888 Road Dog. Commercial timeout. We're going to come right back, and we will return in just a minute right here. All across North America, live on this Friday on Sirius XM 128.
The news and issues affecting drivers. Now, back to SiriusXM Road Dog Trucking News.
All right, drivers, 27 minutes after, and we're live, 327 East, 227 Central. My name is Mark Willis. I'm in the Dallas area, and wherever you are, I appreciate you tuning into the program all across North America. This is SiriusXM Satellite Radio, and this is the Truckers Channel. We got a great conversation going on right now. We're talking about the idea of raising the truck weights out there. Guys, you know, it's an age-old debate. It's been around for a while, and there is some really active movements underway to try to move this thing forward. I've got Fort Worth attorney Stephen C. Laird, who is on the line with me right now. And, Stephen, I appreciate you joining me, sir. Thank you for coming on board and chatting with the drivers out there. Can drivers find you guys up on the web? Are you on Facebook, website? Where can they go to see what you guys do?
If they go to www.texlawyers, that's TEXLAWYERS.com, they'll be able to find our website at that particular point.
Okay. And you guys do Facebook and the Twitter thing as well?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Send me those links, and I'll put them on our Facebook page as well. It's Sirius XM's Road Dog Trucking News. And I appreciate you coming on board and talking about this. And, yeah, this has been a discussion that's been ongoing for a while. But I'll tell you, it's always a very interesting debate. And we're going to talk about some of the groups that are pushing for this. But first of all, we've got a number of callers. Let's go to Man of Steel, who's going to be first up. Welcome to the show, sir. Great handle. You're on with attorney Stephen C. Laird.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. I'd just like to talk about one thing that you guys aren't and you don't cover and you don't consider. I've been pulling these kinds of longer combination vehicles now for about ever since 1981 when they were able to come in effect. You actually have less weight per axle on these trucks. And, your common loaded 80,000-pound truck, they've got 34,000 pounds on a tandem set. But these LCVs, the longer combinations, they're anywhere from 26,000 pounds to 30,000 pounds per axle. Therefore, it's less wear and tear on the road. They do have better stopping power because you've got more brakes and less weight.
All right, so I appreciate it. Stephen, you want to jump in?
Yes. Even though there's technically perhaps less weight on each axle, overall, you're still going to have more axles on the road per truck. So just by logical definition, that's going to result in more wear and tear. And as far as additional or better stopping power than, let's say, an 80,000-pound current maximum load is concerned, I think the physics tell a lot. And you're talking about, you sound like a very well-trained, and obviously you've got a lot of experience having driven these longer loads as long as you've just indicated. I think you're an exception to the rule, sir. You are at the top of the heap, so to speak. My concern is a lot less experienced drivers handling these types of loads that will not have the experience, the ability, and the knowledge to handle those loads like you do. You've had years of experience. We're talking about putting something into the hands of drivers with basically no training or experience with these larger loads. That in and of itself presents a very significant safety risk factor for the truck drivers and the traveling public both.
Are there accident data statistics available to back that up from what you're saying?
To back up the what exactly?
To back up. Go ahead.
To back up the fact. We know already. Current statistics show that there are approximately 4,000 fatalities a year in collisions involving 18-wheelers. Now, you put larger trucks with greater weights, with minimal experienced drivers with these types of loads on its face, although there's not a study that can be done prospectively in the future. Right. But I think the common sense and logic is going to tell us what the eventual studies are going to show in retrospect after such larger loads are put on the roads as far as additional collisions regarding the safety factor is concerned.
All right, and take it a step further, Counselor. I've seen data from the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance indicating that between big trucks and cars out there, 75% of the time it's caused by the cars. Should the focus be more on educating the four-wheeling community about working or operating around some of these bigger trucks, including these ones that may have the larger loads? Okay, we're going to come back here in just a minute. Drivers, don't go anyplace. You're tuned in to Sirius XM 128. Drivers, and I'm going to post a link to the New York State DOT up on our website at SiriusXM's Road Dog Trucking News. Mr. Stephen Laird, I owe you an apology, sir, for the phone gremlins that have been running amok here in the studio, and I appreciate you bearing with us. I would like to invite you back to maybe join us either next week or the week after with your scheduling. I know that you got to catch a plane here in just a few minutes, and again, we'll get all of the gremlins worked out. It's a great topic, a great discussion. And my objective here on the program as the news anchor is to present both sides, obviously, so people can make their own decisions. So can I invite you back at a later point, sir, maybe in the next week or two if you're scheduled?
Oh, it would be my pleasure, and don't give it a second thought. This is live radio, and just like live TV or anything else that's live, you have to roll with the punches, as they say. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you and your audience today.
Outstanding. I'm in the Dallas area, and I owe you lunch. I know you're over in Fort Worth, and maybe we can try to get a bite to eat. But thank you, man, for the time, and I'll be in contact with you. And drivers, that is Attorney Stephen Laird on the line with us. And that's one of the things about live radio, guys. Sometimes you get glitches in the system. Sometimes things hiccup, and that's just the way it goes. What can you say? Holy cow. We got a break here.